Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, inshallah, we will explain a poem for Samuel Johnson, and this will be the last poem in our semester. Okay, so let's start first with a background about Samuel Johnson. He was born on 1709 and died on 1784. So this is the 18th century. Although he suffered from defective eyesight and hearing, as well as a scarred face, this is because of an illness that he contracted when he was a child. Okay, Jonson nevertheless dominated the English literary scene during the second part of the 18th century. He was a son of a bookseller. So he attended Oxford, but was forced to leave without a degree due to poverty. Now, in 1734, he married a much older widow and set up as a schoolmaster and bookseller in the Midlands. However, he abandoned both and went to London in 1737 with his student David Garrick, who later became a well-known actor. Now there, Jonson began a literary career, becoming a regular contributor to the Gentleman's magazine, first editing and then writing the parliamentary reports, and that happened in 1741 to 1744. His three greatest works are his English dictionary. Now, English dictionary, he wrote an English dictionary which was published in 1755 and which won Jonson great fame but not fortune. Of course, we said that he was a poor man, actually from birth, and he continued to be a poor man. An edition of Shakespeare with preface and notes in 1765, and the lives of the poets considered by some to be his masterpiece. A great man, that was Jonson's. Jonson's genius and humanity were recorded by his biographer, James Boswell, in the life of Samuel Johnson. Now, let's come to the poem of Samuel Johnson that we will explain today. Its title is On the Death of Dr. Robert Levitt. Okay? This was written in 1782. Jonson wrote this poem shortly before his own death. Levitt, a penniless and obscure doctor who, although he didn't have a medical degree, treated the poor for little or no money. So actually Levitt, or Dr. Rupert Levitt, he wasn't a real doctor, okay? But he had like some training in medicine, okay? And he used his skills in treating the people, especially the poor people. He was living with Jonson, by the way, because Jonson, after losing his wife and becoming without a family, he tried to create to himself a family. So he allowed Levitt to live with him. Now, he noticed how Levitt helped the poor people in medical cases, so that's why he called him doctor. Okay? He lived with Samuel Johnson for more than 20 years. Upon his death in 1782, Jonson wrote this poem. Notice how in the last stanza the aged poet presents his ideal way to die. We will see the last stanza now when we listen or watch the video for this poem. Okay, so let's go to the YouTube in order to read this poem. Okay, so let's listen now.
On the death of Dr. Robert Levitt. Condemned to hope's delusive mine as on we toil from day to day, by sudden blasts or slow decline, our social comforts drop away. Well tried through many a varying year, see Levitt to the grave descend, officious, innocent, sincere, of every friendless name, the friend. Yet still he fills affection's eye, obscurely wise and coarsely kind, nor lettered arrogance deny thy praise to merit unrefined. When fainting nature called for aid, and hovering death prepared the blow, his vigorous remedy displayed the power of art, without the show. In misery's darkest cavern known, his useful care was ever nigh, where hopeless anguish poured his groan, and lonely want retired to die. No summons mocked by chill delay, no petty gain disdained by pride, the modest wants of every day, the toil of every day supplied. His virtues walked their narrow round, nor made a pause, nor left a void, and sure the eternal master found the single talent well employed. The busy day, the peaceful night, unfelt, uncounted, glided by. His frame was firm, his powers were bright, though now his 80th year was nigh. Then, with no throbbing, fiery pain, no cold gradations of decay, death broke at once the vital chain, and freed his soul the nearest way.
Okay, so as you saw, okay, he was praising his friend Levitt and describing his kind nature and his readiness to help the people, unlike the other arrogant doctors who just attended to the rich people. And we see in the last two lines, okay, here, in the last two lines, two lines, he talks here about the nature of death. Okay, so death broke at once the vital chain. Of course, the vital chain here, this is a metaphor of the life. Death broke at once the vital chain and freed his soul the nearest way. So as if his life was actually, because of the suffering that they had in their life, it was like a chain around his neck. And death actually helped him to free his soul, not only to die. Okay, so on the death of Dr. Robert Levitt, the poem is a poetic elegy, إذن هي عبارة عن مرثية that celebrates the life while mourning the death of Robert Levitt. احنا بنعرف المرثية، يعني بعدد مناقب الفقيد أو حسنات الفقيد وبيحزن على موته. هذه هي الإليجي of Robert Levitt who lived from 1705 to 1782, a lay physician. Okay, so he wasn't a real physician, doctor. He wasn't a real doctor, who for many years lived in Samuel Jonson's London house and tended the local poor, seldom asking a fee for his services. يعني he helped the poor people. He treated them for their medical problems, but he seldom asked them for fees. Jonson's poem is divided into 9 4-line stanzas. يعني كل في عندي 9 مقاطع، كل مقطع في 4 أسطر. The rhyme scheme is A-B-A-B. Each stanza, okay, and of course then you continue. Each stanza is a grammatically self-contained unit, so it gives full idea. That makes a statement not only about Levitt and his life, but by extension about humanity and the human condition in general. So in this poem, he doesn't talk only about Levitt, but about all those people who are ready to serve the others without asking for fees or without asking for thanks. Now let's come to a short analysis of this poem. Dr. Levitt, who took care of the needy, was a healer in the true sense of the word, and in praising him, Jonson is criticizing the greedy and uncharitable doctors who only attended the rich. Dr. Levitt was charitable, innocent, and sincere. He was wise, kind, and humble. كل هذا كان في شرحه في القصيدة. He was ready to give his help to the fainting nature when called for aid, and his vigorous remedy displayed the power of his art. يعني كمان بيحكي إنه علاجاته كانت من قوتها دليل على تمكنه من فن الطب رغم إنه مش طبيب. Dr. Levitt used to visit the places where misery and poverty abide. He was always sympathetic and helpful, and his virtues are well employed. إذا هو كان هذا الدكتور بدور وين في مناطق فيها تعاسة وفيها فقر، كان يروح ويظهر تعاطفه ومساعدته لهدول الناس. He led a very difficult life till death broke at once. إذا كانت حياته صعبة لأنه أصلا ما كانش ياخد رسوم حتى على العلاج. أوكي، فظلت صعبة لحد ما أجا الموت وأخذ وداعته. طبعا هو كان في سنوات ال80، لكن الشاعر بيحكي إنه من عطائه ومن كواسته وكأنه عمره 9 سنين. So the death broke at once and freed his anguished soul. روحه المعذبة. On the death of Dr. Robert Levitt is a traditional poem. It is in fact among those poems that anyone familiar with English poetry would immediately assign to the 18th century لأنها traditional. في عندي القافية، في عندي ترتيب الأسطر الquatrains, and probably to Jonson the consistent use of, we will have these 3 things: adjective noun combinations, like for example sudden blasts, useful care. ففي عنده هذه combinations منتشرة في القصيدة. The presence of several key personifications، طبعا هذا personifications معروفة. fainting nature, hopeless anguish، وكأنه الانguish العذاب عنده أمل، بتأمل وما بتأملش. And the carefully balanced phrasing: the busy day, the peaceful night. شوفوا عندكم the busy، في عندي the وفي عندي busy adjective و day noun. The peaceful night، في عندي the peaceful adjective night noun. His fame was firm، طلع على his fame was firm. His powers were bright، نفس تركيبة الجملة. His fame اللي هي في عندي اللي هو subject، was verb firm اللي هو complement اللي هي الصفة. His powers هي نفس الاشي subject were linking verb and bright adjective. All indicate Jonson's commitment to order, form and tradition. So he was following the rules of writing poetry in his age. Okay? That's the end of this poem. I don't want to give you more because this is enough for you, inshallah. And thanks for being with me in this semester. Hope you the best luck, inshallah, on your final exams.